welcome to another episode of Movie Mayhem here at Superior Works Cinema, where we watch all the movies. Today we're doing another recap of a superhero. This time it is Superman. You've probably seen the Batman one by now. Superman is kind of an interesting character in that he transcends the comic book genre way more than anybody else. And again, Superman had done that, God knows how far back, but before any other super type of character managed to do it. I mean, Superman was known in Nazi Germany well, so he's a little bit of a different character. And also, I found Superman is one of the most misconstrued characters in the comic medium. There's always been a kind of a hip thing to say, I hate Superman, he's just a little Boy Scout. Now, a lot of that comes from, I think, for me, the Frank Miller school of attitude, where you kind of don't get Superman. And again, we're dealing with a character so popular that he's suffered through so many writers, so many mediums, so many different concepts that, who is Superman? What is a Superman? And that's honestly a fair question. Your average person might have only seen George Reeves, and they think that's Superman, or even Christopher Reeves, and that's it. That's their definition of Superman. Then you have the other group who's seen maybe Super Friends, or the Ruby Spears, or even, hopefully maybe the animated series, which is a much better take on the character. For me, if you want to see the definitive Superman, read Kingdom Come, Mark Waid, Alex Ross. That, to me, is the definitive Superman. If you want to see one thing, you read one thing, that's what you should get. Go check out Kingdom Come, read it cover to cover. That answers the question, who is Superman and why Superman? So it's perfect. There's been a lot of other amazing comic stories with Superman. Notably, I would say the Death of Superman After A World Without Superman. Those, I think there's collected editions that kind of get them together, but it ran through basically all of the DC titles, and it really... the Death of Superman itself was kind of a weak storyline. It was basically, let's make this monster beat Superman to death. Okay. It sold a bazillion copies, so whatever. But with the aftermath, the way that was portrayed through all those storylines, and of course you had a lot of different writers, and some did it better than others, but it really struck home as to what, who is Superman. So you got a character that's this insanely powerful guy. I mean, upon creation, he could jump real high, he couldn't fly or whatever. It kind of grew. By the time, by the time you got to the Seduction of the Innocent era of garbage, he was a good character to utilize because he didn't have the darkness of a Batman. You could really kind of go with that, and boy, did they ever. Crypto's awesome. I actually don't have a problem with Crypto, but we had Legion of Super Pets, which was amazing. I've read every issue of that garbage. It was fantastic. Yeah, Supergirl had her horse, because apparently Krypton. Who knows? But, so, you want to read some great zany stuff? The pre-Crisis Superman, while there are some really good things in there, especially in the late 70s, early 80s, when Superman kind of followed 5 to 8 years after the rest of DC, because Superman was such a huge property. They were really delicate with making it not super kiddie friendly, but by that time they started to get really good. And Byrne's reboot, which kind of depowered Superman, because if you've read any of those, he was so absurdly powerful before Crisis. It was just like, okay, how do you, and I like how DC said, let's keep this continuity and just have the Earth's restructure, and then we can do this without just completely throwing it away, because the guy was like tossing planets at one point, and at that point you just get to a level of absurdity that you can't. Where do you write a meaningful story? It would be like having like Marvel's The Beyonder. You can only do so much with characters like that. They're not, they become plot points and not characters. So with Byrne's reboot, you had a nice level setting of Superman, which of course his powers fluctuated again, and also he was running in 4 titles, and at one point, not only just 4 titles, one of those was a weekly title. So I mean, you've got so much Superman pumping out. What do you do? So that's the comic background. Let's dive into the mediums. So for movies, with Superman, there are, it looks 5, 6 full movies of Superman with some offshoots being in there. So we'll start with Superman and the Mole Men. I'm not sure if that was a theatrical release. It probably was. This was with George Reeves. And so it's pretty much the TV show, just in a longer format. Again, but you got a little bit of more comic characters there than you really got with the show. The show, obviously, I was not a fan of the show. I never liked George Reeves as Superman. I don't think it's fine for the era, so it's kind of hard to critique it, but again, the throwing, you shoot Superman and throw the gun at him. Every episode, I swear that happened. Of course, he dodged the gun. It was just hokey. I mean, again, for the time era, I give it a pass, but I don't own it, not going to rewatch them. They're boring to me. So, that was very popular. He had a lot of radio serials, too. Which those worked well. Then we got the 1979 Superman movie. Score is really good. I like the music. I think it works very well. And when this came out, again, what was the competition, right? There was nothing else. You didn't really have a Superman movie. You didn't have a superhero movie before this. It's so my complaints. I didn't like Lois Lane, Margot Kidder. I don't know. I never felt the charisma there. I love Christopher Reeves, and he's very good as to me, he felt like an amalgamation from the Goody Two-Shoes 60 comic merged with the Super Friends Superman, and Reeves does a perfect job of portraying that. To me, that's not my Superman. The first movie is cool. It works on some levels. Story-wise, the whole turning the Earth backwards thing was just, I don't know. It works on an emotional level, and it kind of bums me out because it's so kind of stupid that it makes no sense. But again, in that era, I think it's fine because Superman did far more ridiculous crap in the comics, but I think that the Lois character just killed it for me. I just never I never really felt her or felt that she fit the part. Again, Reeves is great. How did I forget his name? Gene Hackman. I actually liked him as Lex. Again, he was being the bank robber Lex, which is cool. And again, that's what he was back then. I much prefer the development they did with Lex when he became more of the intelligent criminal, and especially like becoming president, that kind of thing. I felt that was a much more powerful character, much more of a nemesis to Superman. They did the cool, like the spinning thing through the Earth when he did that into the subway. That was cool. That was really nice. I love those effects. So effects wise and being able to bring something like that to the screen, the original Superman is a groundbreaking film. Rewatching it, I can watch it. I still do enjoy it. I think Reeves' performance sells the movie, and Hackman is also very good as well. So I would give the original Superman a nice 8. It's still a very nice film. And I do enjoy it. It's not, my only problem with it is it's not my Superman, if that makes sense. Then we get Superman 2. Obviously, after such a huge success, you would get a sequel. Not like today where a moderate success will pump out 10 sequels. This was a gigantic success. And Superman 2, there's 2 cuts. Donner cut is better. So if you want to watch it, go check out the Donner cut. It's a much better film, which, once again, Director should always have final cut. If it sucks, blame the director and don't give him any more work. And this is a case where Donner's cut's just superior. Again, Reeves' performance, very good. Forgot his name is Zod. His performance is great. My complaint in this movie is the fighting. It's just weird. The slow-mo stuff, I don't know. I don't like it. It bothers me watching it. Again, it's still a fun movie. It does not have the emotional impact of the first one. And again, I think some of that's due to the pressure Donner was under. Especially the not Donner cut is just kind of sketchy. So I would give this only a 7. Again, watch the Donner cut. The non-Donner cut I would knock down maybe to a 6 or something. It's just not as good of a movie. It doesn't work as well. Donner's version is a much better film. It's still fun, and you're in the exact same line. There's no change. Then we got Superman 3. Richard Pryor, amazing. I feel sorry for him being in this movie. He was actually one of the better parts. It's just a dumb movie. I mean, why is Superman still fighting guys who are bank robbers, effectively? It's just not... It's boring to watch. It feels like a retread, just an overhash of the same garbage again and again. So I wouldn't recommend watching that one. But with, the budget's dropped. This came out. It didn't do good. The movie did very badly. And so they ended up selling the rights, which eventually went over to Cannon. And Cannon, I love me some Cannon films, but they're really low budget. So this, let's give a rating on Superman 3. 5 because Richard Pryor's in it? Maybe. That's about all I can give it. It's hokey and it's kind of worth a gag, but it ends up dragging and being kind of boring, so it doesn't even have that good, bad movie effect to it. However, Superman 4... at one point, so they were going to make this, this is Cannon's big movie, they're going to make a bucket of money. The idea came from Reeves, and he wanted to do that. He had this grand scope. It's a good idea, and it's been done in the comics. And the comic version worked really well. The problem was they didn't have enough money. They asked Cannon for more money. At one point, they were going to give them more money, but then Cannon was bleeding because they were pumping out 50 to 90 films a year at this point. God knows what they were thinking, but anyway, they were broke. Totally bankrupt. So they said, hey, we ain't got no more money. So then you get Superman 4, which has some of the most awesomely bad effects in this type of movie. It's just awful. I can't... I mean, Reeves is fine. He's playing the same character. He does good. It's the movie itself that's just horrible. It's absurd. The fighting is terrible, and the effects are just amazingly bad. There's just stock footage used for the flying scenes. Oh, God, it's... So in all honesty, if we want to... I almost rate it a little higher, giving it the 6 or 7, because it is entertaining, because it's such a piece of crap. So you end up with that, and then I think we got Supergirl, maybe somewhere around that period where Reeves was originally going to be in that, but dropped out. Supergirl's, again, that's a fun trash movie. It's not good. That ended it. That kind of ended a lot of the superhero stuff. You didn't get much after this. You had Corman's Fantastic Four, which came out, which was terrible. Captain America, which was terrible. That's really all you got. Superheroes kind of... After the financial failure of Superman 3, I think the superhero genre got a bad rap. Outside of the Batman explosion. And nobody else had any success. And there was a lot of stuff done, but for some reason they were done by very low-end studios. And, you didn't get the big studios doing superhero movies again until X-Men, which, again, surprises me because I'm not calling New Line a big studio. They kind of... I think they jumped to that after... Lord of the Rings, but in the 90s I really don't think they were, because Blade did really well, and it was a good success, and again, they got the rights dirt cheap. Snipes did, because Marvel was bankrupt. It kind of surprised me we didn't get more after his success, with Blade, but who knows? But with that, after the success of X-Men, we got more. But again, that might be because X-Men was a super huge success and Blade was a really good success. But based on budget, Blade was a huge success. I don't know. It's like if a movie makes $400 million, it's a gigantic success, even though it costs $300. But if it makes $100 million and only costs $20, it was only a moderate success. I don't know. If it was my money, I'd be really happy. So there was a long lag. And then we got Superman Returns. I'm going to come out and say I don't really like Bryan Singer as a director. I enjoyed Usual Suspects and the Nazi flick. And it's skipping my mind right now. I enjoyed that, but honestly, the rest of his movies, I am not much of a Singer fan. I find his X-Men movies, they're okay. And now, at the time they came out, you're like, wow, this is the best superhero movie. And I felt that way as well. But then I went back and tried to rewatch them all before the Wolverine came out. I just kind of rewatched all of them, and man, they just, I don't know, they don't work for me anymore. They just feel like a sad attempt at making a comic book movie. Which, again, now you've got a lot more stuff to compare it to. So Singer, I get why they hired him because of the success with X-Men, but that makes no sense because you're talking a totally different genre of character. But we got a Superman, which, Brandon Routh, I like Brandon Routh. I think he's really good as the Atom. And I love him in some other movies. I think he's a good actor. I did not like his portrayal of Superman. Spacey was okay as Luthor, but the storyline was idiotic. So Luthor, this genius, he's going to create a landmass that they explain in the movie is radioactive humans, but he's going to sell it for all this money, except it's solid radioactive rock. There's no water. There's no soil. Who's he selling this to? People that want to build wastelands? It's just an idiotic plan. It makes no sense. The script is awful for this movie. The saving the plane scene, that was a good scene. Outside of that, the movie's garbage. It's just a terrible movie. It felt to me like someone whoever wrote this didn't understand Superman, didn't like Superman, and didn't really want to be writing a Superman script. Or, and I feel this way from some of the interviews, they were trying so hard to make a sequel to Donner's original Superman. Or I think they included the second one, but they were trying so hard to do that they lost sight of, this isn't 1979. It's not the same Superman. But even in that context, the Stalker baby daddy storyline, the fuck were they thinking? It's horrible. It's stupid. It makes no sense. I don't even know what to say on that. I really don't. It's just, the movie's a mess. I've rewatched it, and I dislike it more every time I see it. I don't even know if I can give the thing a rating. Outside of some of the effect sequences, it's just a piece of crap. The Super Baby? Why? What on... Everything about that movie just pisses me off. It's just dumb. There was no excuse to make that movie in that year. It was just... I don't know who was in charge of greenlighting that at a way high level, but they dropped the ball beyond words. That movie was as bad as one of the worst comic arcs made. There was nothing... I don't know. And even for Singer, I think that was Singer's worst film. So... regardless if I'm a fan of Singer's style or not, to me, that's easily his worst movie. I don't understand what happened. Nothing. You had good actors in this movie too, and it just came off terrible. So, Superman Returns, maybe a 3. It's got some nice effects. That's all I can give it for. And I really feel sorry for Ruth because I really like him. And it just sucks that had to be this guy's, big debut and he gets shafted. He might have been a good Superman in a different film. Now, thankfully, they rethought all this, scrapped it, and said, hey, let's just restart and do our own cinematic universe. You know, the Batman success had done so well. So they brought Nolan on board as a DC Cinematic Universe consultant kind of guy, exec producer. And then they grabbed Schneider, who, again, Schneider to me is the only person to make a perfect comic adaptation for me with Watchmen. Yes, there are changes. So by perfect, I don't mean shot for shot, but I mean, for me, that's when I watch that film, I have the same feelings as when I read the graphic novels or individual issues, for those of you that actually read those. You couldn't have had a better choice. So you get Man of Steel, and it's a fantastic film to me. What he did, and where I feel some of the Marvel films lack, is the threat level. I didn't exactly know what was going to happen. Of course I know Superman's not going to die, right? We know that. But I didn't have the whole thing laid out. Again, this isn't Disney, so you're dealing with a different thing. You're also dealing with, if you don't, anyone doesn't realize it, Disney doesn't use a lot of big name directors. Sometimes they'll use a newer guy who's got a lot of style, like a James Gunn. But if you look at like Gunn's background, he's a very new director. Just has some excellent indie films he's put out, and they are awesome. I highly recommend all of Gunn's stuff. I think he's fantastic. But they don't usually hire directors with hard styles, or a good word is stubborn attitudes. They don't do that. You don't see. There's a reason Eastwood doesn't direct for Disney. You know, he's got his own contract, and he does exactly whatever the fuck he wants, and they leave him alone. You're not going to see that with Disney. They want control over their product, and I get that. So we're dealing with a very different archetype model in the Warner Brothers house. So Schneider, hard visual style. Again, I love Schneider. I think he's fantastic. All of his movies are great. Guardians, that's a great freaking movie. Some people whine about his slow-mo, but I think he does it. I think he uses it very well. It's timed well, and his visual sense of style appeals to me. As an Argento fan, style wins a lot. If you got enough cool flair on your style, I might even forgive some other problems. So Superman is, well, Man of Steel. It's a little bit darker film, and I know why they did that, and they needed to do it. Again, your average person who claims to be a Superman expert has watched Super Friends. It's also the same guy who claims to be an Aquaman expert and know everything about Aquaman. They've watched Super Friends. They've seen the old movies. They might have seen some of the TV shows, maybe some of the animated series, maybe. But most of them, they don't really know what they're talking about. They only know this character they've heard of from this, which surprises me, because it's not like Aquaman, who literally, if you haven't read the comics, you haven't read good Aquaman. You've read the brunt of somebody's joke who didn't understand the character. But with Superman, you get that. I mean, I've read so many people like, Superman should be bright and colorful and happy. Why? The comics aren't. The comics have all ranges of stories. The only comics that were always bright, colorful, and happy were the Seduction of the Innocent era garbage. I mean, every comic was like that. Every single one. And they were all annoying to read. So this is a character, I mean, he's effectively a god archetype. You've got to write him in such a way that I'm going to feel emotion. Schneider does an amazing job with Krypton. So the movie opens with this just fantastic sequence. It's stunning visually. I like the characters, love the actors. I mean, you got the actors. This movie's filled with amazing actors. Both fathers. The guy. I mean, how lucky can you be to get Crow and Costner as your daddy? You got some nice stuff to play on here. I love him as Superman. For me, when I saw him, I was like, okay, not bad. But when I first saw him on the screen as Superman, that to me is the definitive live-action Superman. You may disagree. That's fine. But for me, that's what I want to see as Superman. So in the movie, there's, it. I mean, if you haven't seen the film, you definitely should. I think this is representative of what Superman needs to be on a screen, not this happy-go-lucky children's fodder. And when one of the complaints I'll address is people say, "Whoa, why wasn't Superman saving everybody?" He was trying. You got a lunatic blowing up the city. You can't run around saving each individual person. You got to stop the lunatic destroying the city. And what I like is they're building into this world where Superman's going to have to deal with his failures. The fact that he can't save everybody. And this is something that's dealt with a lot in the comics. The biggest suffrage that Superman has is he can't save everybody. Again, this is the Christ analogy. He wants to save everyone's life, but it's not possible, and he has to make this choice, and it felt emotional. This is a movie where I was intensely into it. Multiple viewings as well. It works. A couple things might have been better, so I give it a 9.5. But that to me is amazing. So that's for films. We got Superman Batman coming up. I think it's gonna be great. Again, it's Schneider. I have no doubt in my mind it's gonna be a amazing film, start to finish. So what do we got for the other stuff? Animated stuff. Let's write. I got a list here. Adventures of Superman. What was that? Oh no, that's the TV show. The Superboy TV series. I watched some of that. It's kind of hard to find. I remember it being kind of like not very interesting. So I can't talk much about that. Lois and Clark. Don't like Dean Cain as Superman. Hatcher, she's okay as Lois, actually. This show was just way too much of a soapy for me. It just, there was no Superman there. Smallville, the predecessor to the current DC TV universe. Especially the early seasons, it was way too villain of the week. Way too let's keep him casual. I never got into him as Superman. I never particularly cared for many of the actors, and it felt way too much Dawson's Creek-y for me as far as the acting goes. So I did not watch the last 2 seasons of Smallville. I admit that. But from what I've seen, it didn't float it for me. It was just not. It didn't feel powerful enough to be Superman for me. I get the budget they're fighting. And now, like, as if you've seen with The Flash, they can kind of get away with doing that stuff, and The Flash, to me, proves you can do somebody with absurd powers well on TV now, so maybe we'll get something else in the form of the Earth 2 Superman on TV. Fleischer Studios cartoons. Fantastic stuff. Check those out. Totally representative of Superman from the 40s era. Really very nice animation. Really like those. Filmation Superman, they did a lot of that kind of crappy cut animation. It's okay. They're okay. They're getting a little bit. I think they're on par with the Spider-Man 60 series, so they're pretty good. A few episodes here and there. Then I think that was the New Adventures of Superman is not Filmation. Then we get in the Superman Aquaman era. This is something I thought was interesting, that Aquaman was their big guy to pair with Superman. Again, those episodes, they're okay, but now we're in the children era. This is after Seduction and Innocence, so these are kids' shows. This bleeds into the 72 different things called Superman, which are effectively just Super Friends Superman. So you're dealing with a very, very kiddie-friendly thing. They're okay. A couple episodes have some good writing, and they're fun to watch. But again, same with the Batman thing. It's Then we go down a while. Trying to see what else we have here. Animated films. Fighting the 70-minute limit, you only get so much. The Superman Doomsday thing, while that was a good storyline, the animated one I thought was terrible. Lois's magic tears or some crap. I thought that was awful. There was one, Brainiac Attacks, too childish. Now, the animated series is very good. I think it is really good. There was a lot of hit and miss with the writers there, though. I think when you had certain writers really would kitty down the episodes, and other writers would write really good episodes. So it's not as solid as the Batman series, but the Dini vs. Superman is still very good and worth checking out because there are some excellent episodes in there. Again, my favorite's still when he becomes Batman. That episode is amazing. So I will never back down that one. Trying to think of another animated one. I have them all listed here. Another one was really good. Public Enemies is pretty good, and Apocalypse is pretty good. Superman Shazam, it felt like they were just building up to that one scene in Kingdom Come, which is really what it came down to. Superman versus the Elite. I did like that one. It's basically, it's kind of an amalgamation of other storylines, but I felt it actually worked in the 70-minute time limit. It seemed to kind of hit home. The Justice League ones, again, they just feel all too rushed to me. Was it All-Star Superman? It's okay. It's a decent adaptation, but again, you're crunching down so much storyline into 70 minutes that you feel like you're missing something. So that's Superman. Again, let me know any other heroes you want to babble about. Feel free to suggest some. Let me know what you think of Superman. Again, if you haven't read some of the stuff, read it. Please read Kingdom Come. Read Kingdom Come and understand why some people actually like Superman. For me, I think he's a great character, a great hero, and really resonates a lot when I read the different stories. So there we go. We're looking forward to Superman Batman next in 2016. So, woohoo! Again, let me know your thoughts, and we'll see you here next time in Movie Mayhem.